Great, thanks, Benazir. So I've been asked to give you a brief demonstration of some of the dashboards that we've created along the design principles that Benazir has just been demonstrating to us. So let me just bring up my screen and we should be rocking and rolling. Okay, so what we have here is a web-focused dashboard. We're using the dark theme that Benazir has been talking about. In this particular case, is what this client has asked for. This has all been decluttered, so there's no brand names or anything in here, but this is something that we built out for one of our clients. They wanted something that's relatively simple and straightforward to use for strategic users. So they wanted people to be able to come in here and to be able to access it. Now, the first thing to mention is it needs to be secure. So you can see I'm signed in as Andy at the top here. We're fully OWASP certified, and the security model that we have will dovetail into all of the major security suppliers out there, such as Kerberos, LDAP, Active Directory. We have a series of exits as well. If you have a custom-built security, then we can build in with that. We also support the single sign-on solutions such as SiteMinder. So everything is secure and ready to go. We talked about being device agnostic when Benazir was talking, and that's something that we've been doing for a number of years here at Information Builders. Effectively, all I need to be able to access this is a browser. So I can come into this from a browser on any device. To that end, what we do is we'll build everything out as being responsive. So if I shut this down a little bit, see how you might view this on a tablet in portrait mode or a phone in landscape mode, you can see we don't just give you a whole series of scroll bars within the gadgets that Benazir was talking about. We actually move things around, resize things so that they make sense to the user on the screen and the device that they're currently using. And that's all inherent in the responsive design. If we go back out to the sort of view that you would see on a typical laptop screen or a desktop screen, then we get a little more of use of that real estate. So coming in here, again, it needs to be intuitive for people to be able to use. That's how we get very high levels of adoption. You don't need training for this type of an interface. If you can order a book on Amazon, you should be able to use this type of an interface. And here we have a series of filters. For example, if I'm interested in a couple of segments, I'm interested in the landscape, the Gen X, and the middle ground, I can just select those and everything will just reconfigure for it. I can very easily go back to the all, and all of these are chained. So if I pick any, then I will only see the campaigns that are relevant to the segments, for example. People also need to be able to switch these around. Things don't stay the same in business, especially today. So people need to be able to switch these dashboards around. So I might want to put a bit more information up here about the return on investment, for example. So I can simply replace this, and I've got views by channel. So let's take a quick look at that. And that pops up and that changes. So next time I log in, I'll get this view until I change it. And we can see on the right-hand side here, we've got some issues around Facebook with the purple. It looks like they're not doing particularly well. So maybe we want to change this out for something that gives me a little more information about Facebook. So I can just again click on the replace. I can see what the Facebook sentiment is, and I can add that in here as well. So I can change and reconfigure the dashboard as the business needs change. So you come in on a Monday morning, then maybe you see the standard dashboard. By 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, there's a couple of questions on your desk. You can quickly switch this around. Obviously, we can drill into this, and we'll see a little bit of that later. But one of the things I want to emphasize here is something we've added to the product called Insight. And if you look at the return on investment by the channel, there's a little icon here with Explore by Insight if I hover over it. So if we click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to reopen that chart for me, and it's going to give me access to all of the data that I'm entitled to see. Now, that's important. Remember when we signed in securely, I'm only seeing the data and the widgets that I'm authorized to see. So if I want to add some information into this, I've got return on investment. Maybe I want to add in some information about how much some of these campaigns cost. So we can put in the campaign spend just by adding in that measure here. And now I can contrast those two. And I'm looking at the return on investment, the campaign spend across months. Well, maybe I want to see how effective the campaigns were. So instead of looking at by date and month, we can switch that out and we can change that to campaign or any of these dimensions and measures that we're seeing. So now I can reconfigure my charts and my interface very quickly and very easily to answer the questions that I might need at any one particular moment in time. Maybe we're looking at this by channel, and I want to see how I did across different regions, different geographical areas within our customer base. And I can very quickly click on region, and we can see straight away from the purple here, which is Asia. barbecue bonanza really didn't seem to go down too well. Maybe barbecue isn't to the taste in that part of the world. As we come across as well, we can see here that spring in bloom, that didn't do particularly well in South America, possibly because it wasn't spring in South America when we had that particular campaign. So one of the conclusions I may want to take away from here is to talk to my marketing people and say, look, we really need to regionalize things a little bit more to be a little more effective in terms of the way that we're spending and the return on investment that we're getting from our campaigns. So that's very quickly and very easily how you can have a flexible environment to look at these charts and really be able to reconfigure them and explore the data for yourself in a very safe and controlled manner. So if we hop off to a different type of an interface, here we've got something that's a little more marketing based. It's a little more strategic than what we were looking at. We've got a little bit of information coming across here in the sliding panels. We have the key performance indicators down here in these panels. And of course, this is all built with the responsive design. We can see we've got some alerts and some collaboration on the right-hand side here that Alison has shared a new data story. That's in this blue color, so I know that that's a new story. Maybe I've viewed these other two, but Alison's is new. And we can drill into that and we can take a look at exactly what Alison's been putting together for us in that data story. And here's the information that she's put together. And we can see that she's used some of our natural language support as well to give us an idea of exactly what these charts are telling us. Gives us a little bit of an uplift in terms of how to interpret them for ourselves. Outside of that, we're finding that mapping something that we're seeing a real uptick in over the last 2 or 3 years. There's a lot of data that actually has address and GIS information in, and people really want to be able to put that up onto a map. So we've had a relationship with the ESRI for in excess of 10 years now, and they're probably one of the top GIS suppliers in the country, if not the world. And this is baked into the product. This is available as part of the core web focus product. And we can overlay this with things like the zip spend, how much have people been spending in my zip codes, and we can see the key here. If we look at the stores, we've got a couple of stores down here in Cliff Haven by Newport Beach, which is a little unusual, but we can see that they're doing pretty well in terms of the way that people are spending. If we look at the Irvine store, we can see that things aren't particularly good there. So maybe there's some issue around competition, and I can actually overlay my competition on this. And we can see, indeed, there's a couple of stores down here by the Newport Beach branch, but not a lot of competition around it, whereas Irvine itself has quite a lot of competition to deal with. So one of the things we might like to do is to have a marketing campaign. And in that term, I might want to send out a marketing campaign to all of the customers from the Irvine store that live within, say, 5 miles. So if I take a quick look at the stores, if we put a quick 5 miles in here for this particular radius, I can do miles and kilometers. If you've got anybody in Canada or in Europe looking at this, kilometers are also supported. And if we just come down and click on the area of the chart or the map that we're interested in, we click on Irvine, we'll now get a report coming back of all of the customers that I have within a 5-mile radius of that particular store. So this is something that we might be able to use in the marketing department to issue some outreach. And within this, I've actually got some interactivity. This report's come back in what we call in-document analytics mode, which gives you a lot of the functionality that people are used to seeing in spreadsheets such as Excel. So for example, I can sort by the purchases, so I can see who my highest purchasers are. So these might be customers in this top tier here between 5 and 12,000. They might be people that I want to reach out on a personal basis or have somebody reach out on a personal basis. We can add comments in here as well if we need to, so we can share and collaborate information with other people. And we can open this up and we can add on things like visualizations, and we can even create charts as well. So we can create a chart, a customer name in here as well, just as you might in a tool such as Excel. And all of that's built into the in-document analytics right here in front of me. Okay, shutting that down, if we now close out of the mapping side of things, we can take a look at some of the other things that we're seeing. We've got a link here to a new campaign that's been launched called Farm to Table. And this is using the infographic ability that we have within the product. What we've done here with Web Focus is we've pulled information in for a number of different sources. We have some information here about the reward status that different customers have. We know their location, so we pulled up something that's local to them for California, because we really want to emphasize that that farm to table philosophy that people are enjoying. We've got some nutritional information around the recipe, and this is a card that they can print out and take to the store with them, buy all the ingredients that they need or order them online, and then create the meal for themselves. And this is something that we can send out on a regularly scheduled basis. It can go out weekly, monthly, or even daily. And we do this for a large number of customers that want to push this information out using our Reportcaster tool. So what you can do is you can schedule this to go out on a regular basis. We use intelligent bursting, so we run the report once, and then we break it out by the primary source. So it will go out to each of the emails that we have, and everybody receives a separate report, even though that report internally was only run once for one single time. Coming back in, if we take a look at something that's possibly a little more esoteric, I kind of hesitate to show this, but it was kind of an interesting project for us. This is a dashboard that somebody wanted that actually models their warehouse. What you're seeing here is the layout of the warehouse with all of the different racks. And if I hover over the different keys that we have, we can see that we have information about each of the racks here, the location, the aisle number, the depth, the height, and the item weight. We can even click through and get a report on what's in that particular bay. And people wanted to be able to change the measures and metrics that they were looking at in a very simple, easy to use way. They didn't want a tool, they wanted an application that they could use. So for example, we're looking at the item weight here and color coded. But if I want to look at something that's the average movements per week, for example, I can just change this drop down. And now I see all of the average movements per week. Anything in the highlighted green is something that has very high average movements. So we want to consider potentially moving this guy down here up to this area here, which is where the trucks come in and get loaded. So we have a very simple view that anybody can use to be able to analyze the situation within their warehouse at any one moment in time. In addition to that, we can search for certain item categories as well. For example, we might be coming into allergy season. Allergy medication might be something that we know is going to be a high movement product very shortly. If we select the item category of allergy medication, we can see that it's literally scattered all the way through the warehouse in a number of different commingled areas. So we might want to have a little project to consolidate all of this again up in the top right-hand corner where the trucks come in. And instead of commingling it, we want to put it all together so that it's easily accessible by our store pickers. Outside of that, something else that happens, unfortunately, in this industry is you get the odd recall. There was a recall a little while ago on romaine lettuce in California. And if I do a quick search on the items for, well, just type in romaine lettuce or the start of romaine lettuce, I can see it pops up. Now I can quickly and easily see where all the romaine lettuce is stored within my organization or within my warehouse, and pull that out and bring that back to the supplier, which is mandated by the FDA. So that's all available within the Web Focus toolset. You have a number of great different ways of viewing that information. So the next question I get is, well, that's great, Andy, but how do we actually create those reports? How do we create those charts? How do we look at the white space? How do we apply different style sheets so that we have different customers with different looks and feels, but we can support them with the same reports? So let's take a look at what that takes within the core product itself. If we come over here to this other tab, I've got the Web Focus homepage, which is kind of what you'd expect to see. We like to think it's a nice, clean view that follows the design principles that we've been talking about. I've got my workspace here, which is an area that I can develop the reports that I'm currently working on. I've got reports that are shared by me. So we can see within here, we've got 4 reports that have been shared with me, by Alison, I believe it is. And we can run those reports if we need to. And we have access to those. And then I have access to all of the different workspaces that I'm authorized to see and work within. So if we go back to the home page, again, you'd see features, recent reports, and the favorites that on my home page, which is exactly what you'd expect to see in a tool like this. Up here on the top left-hand corner, though, we have visualized data. So if we take a look at that, what's it going to take to create some of these reports and charts that we were just looking at? So we've opened up the designer tool here. And if I click on the indication up here that we need to select a table or review to report on, let's do some recipe information. Let's pull out some recipe information that we were looking at with the infographic. Here, for example, what we've done is we split out the data in terms of dimensions and measures. So it's nice and easy for me to use as an end user. It kind of groups them into a logical groups, and that's done within the Web Focus metadata. And if I want to do something that's, let's just do our most popular recipe. So let's pull recipe over, let's pull over the rating, and let's just flip that so it's vertical, which probably makes a little more sense. And then we might want to sort by the rating. So we've got our highest rating recipes at the top. And now I have the information that I want very quickly and very easily within this widget. I can bring over the filters if I need to. If I want to filter by calories, for example, I can do that with the sliding scale just by pulling it over. If I want the fat content, which is something that people are concerned about, I can pull that up here as well. And I now have that as a sliding filter for my chart as I do my investigation. And if I change my mind or I want to just use something different, I can just click on the X and they'll be deleted. So what I'd like to do here is maybe add some additional information to this around things like sales and some other factors that unfortunately aren't in the standard data set that I've been given. But I do have the ability within the data tab to go across and potentially join this to other information. And I know that in my supermarket area, I have a customer rewards table that I can potentially join to my recipe information. And it looks like we've got a decent join there. If we click on the edit link, we can see what we've got. It looks like we've made a suggestion of joining on product description between the two tables. That's given with an 80% confidence, which seems to be pretty good. The result looks pretty good. I've got over 4,000 results joined. I can do an inner, outer, left, right, full outer, everything that you might need to do. But I'm pretty happy with that standard join, so I'm going to go with that. We go back to our visualization. Remember, this is still using a thin client, a browser. And once it updates, I now have access to all of this information here. So I can do things like I can now start to filter by more marketing specific things like gender and age group by dropping those down. So they're all available to me now. What I can also do is I can add in an additional chart here as well. So we can add in an additional visualization. And notice how the page changes. We've gone really from a single chart to now a page view where I have a page heading, I have my filters, but I've gone to containers. And we can change the type of containers that we have, panels, tabs, carousels, so that you can really be able to pack in the information and give the user a very rich experience within those different types of containers. We can show the title, show the toolbar, or we can switch those off very simply and very easily here. And we can decide which particular products in terms of hardware we want to show here as well. So kind of to Benazir's point, lining things up is very important. Having a little bit of white space between them is important. So I can just drag and drop these as I see fit. Highlighting the container that I'm working on here. If we go to the right-hand side, we have all the different chart types that are available to me currently. And there are additional charts that can be added in here very simply, very easily using D3, for example. Let's do a pack chart. So let's pull across, let's go back to fields, and let's pull across sales. Let's have a look at that by product description. And maybe let's just color that by, what should we color that by? Let's color that by age group. So now we have a different type of chart, and let's just add in an additional one just for fun. Let's do, what should we do? Let's do a map. Since we were talking about mapping and the SRI, let's see how that works. So once I select the map type or chart type of map up here, this is a proportional symbol. We also support chloropleth. We can pull across what we want. So we're going to need a location, which is the customer address. Let's take a look at sales for the size, and let's go with the age group for the coloration as well. So quickly and easily, you see, we can start to create that page, and we can change the layout just by dragging and dropping each of these. The size of the blocks behind is all configurable. Pretty much everything on here is configurable. We talked a little bit about cascading style sheets, so we have a number of different style sheets that we can use. Let's go with midnight. So with the use of a style sheet, we can very quickly and very simply change the view that somebody is having. And this is how we can support a number of different multi-tenancy types of environments as well, whereby people can have the same reports, but have their look and feel, their color scheme, their logos embedded on them as well. So that's how we can really kind of make these very, very configurable and very straightforward and reusable for a large number of users. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover.
Andy, one quick question that came up that I think one quick question I think that came up that may be good to address before we move on is what tools we're using to create this, and we tried our best. I think we answered you using a lot of Designer and Insights in there as well. But the question came could this be done in Dev Studio as well? Some of these same things.
I think the question was App Studio, Tim. The question was, they have App Studio? Can I get this done using Application Studio?
Yes, it wouldn't be as straightforward as using Designer, because Designer now really gives you kind of the ability to do a lot of what we do I mean, forgive me, the people that don't know App Studio, but a lot of what has traditionally been done in the HTML Painter is now being done in Designer, and that will continue to progress as we go. So this demonstration was pretty much built exclusively in Designer. I think the only piece that was built in App Studio was the mapping that I showed you from the supermarket, which was this link here. So I believe this guy was built with App Studio and has been around for a little while, and we incorporated that. So the short answer is yes, you can continue to use App Studio, but I would recommend that you take a look at Designer and take a move towards that, because it really supports that more modern look and feel, and it really is going to start to replace App Studio, I think, in the near future, certainly in the next releases.